Okay, so are you ready to dive into shape-shifting?
I am. I am.
Shape-shifting today. And, you sent over a fascinating documentary and some interviews, and
Yeah.
this stuff is wild.
Yeah. It's really out there.
Yeah, we're talking about people who say they've seen reptilian beings,
Right.
like face-to-face,
Like in the flesh. Yeah.
and theories about how shape-shifting could actually, like, work.
Hmm.
And even this idea that it's being, like, subtly revealed to us
Right.
through, like, movies and pop culture.
Yeah.
Now, of course,
Soft disclosure.
yeah, soft disclosure.
Exactly.
Now, we're not saying that any of this is definitely true,
Right.
but we are going to explore the ideas and the evidence.
Yeah. I think that's the important thing. We're going to go through this documentary
Yeah.
and look at what they're presenting and
Yeah.
see if it holds any water or, if it's just completely out there. It'll
Totally.
be fun to break it down.
Exactly. It's a deep dive into the unknown, that's for
All
sure.
right.
So the documentary is called Don't Mention the Reptilians.
Right.
And it starts with this guy named Richard Bruce,
Yes.
who says that he was, like, basically put under surveillance
Right.
for making these videos.
Which is analysis. Yeah.
Yeah, where he was analyzing footage from, like, mainstream media,
Uh-huh.
and he was, like, claiming to expose shape-shifting, like, in action.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that it goes beyond just him, like, analyzing the footage.
Okay.
He claims that he was, like, specifically targeted for this work that he was doing.
Okay.
And he talks about, like, constant surveillance from police cars, helicopters, even these things he calls micro UFOs.
Oh, wow. He even had the micro UFOs after him.
Yeah, like these little metallic orbs
Okay.
that were constantly buzzing around his house.
So what do you make of that detail?
It's a curious detail. I
Yeah.
mean, we obviously can't verify
Yeah.
whether these micro UFOs actually exist.
Right.
But it does make you wonder,
Oh.
like, why would someone fabricate such a specific and unusual element to their story?
Right.
It's not something you'd typically hear.
Yeah, it's very specific, yeah.
Yeah, so it kind of adds a layer of intrigue to his experience.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay, so it's not just Richard Bruce with a story to tell.
Right.
The documentary maker himself
Yes.
shares his own encounter.
Yeah, this is crazy.
While he was interviewing a former Army officer
Right.
named Tony,
Mm-hmm.
and Tony claims that he woke up one morning
Uh-huh.
and there was this reptilian humanoid standing at the foot of his bed.
I mean, like, imagine waking up to that.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
Scary stuff.
So what's interesting about Tony's account?
I think what's really striking is the level of detail that he provides.
Okay.
He describes the creature as being partially see-through.
Partially see-through.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like you could kind of see through it.
Wow, okay.
It had this, like, surprised expression on its face.
A surprised expression.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't expecting to be seen.
It makes you wonder, was it not intending to be seen?
No.
Or was it
Mhm.
surprised that Tony could see it in its true form?
Wow. Okay.
And then he also mentions this metallic belt
A metallic belt
with 12 cylinders on it.
with 12 cylinders.
Very specific details.
Yeah. So do you think that this detail about the surprised expression like lends any credence to the idea of like a accidental transformation?
It's certainly possible, like maybe this being was caught off guard.
Yeah.
And it kind of ties into this larger question of how shape-shifting might actually work.
Okay. Yeah. Let's get into that.
So the documentary explores two main theories.
Okay.
One is biological transformation.
Okay. So like they actually physically transformed.
Yeah, like they might possess reptilian DNA.
Right.
And this allows them to physically change under certain conditions.
Okay.
And one of the interview subjects, Arizona Wilder,
Okay.
she actually claims that reptilians wear robes during ritual.
During rituals.
Yeah, because they know they're going to be shape-shifting.
Oh, why?
So it's not just an illusion or a projected image.
Right.
She's suggesting an actual physical transformation is taking place.
Okay. So that's one theory.
Right.
What's the other theory?
Another theory is that shape-shifting is achieved through technology.
Oh, so like some sort of advanced tech.
Yeah, like ultra advanced,
Okay.
maybe alien technology that allows them to alter their appearance.
Wow.
Maybe on a molecular level.
Okay.
Manipulating light and matter.
So they appear as something they're not.
Exactly.
Okay, so those are the two main theories.
Wait, the documentary doesn't really explicitly endorse either one.
Yeah.
But it presents both as possibilities, highlighting just how much of a mystery surrounds this whole shape-shifting phenomenon.
So do you have a theory that you lean towards more?
It's tough to say.
Yeah.
I mean, both theories are pretty out there.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to wrap my head around someone physically transforming into a reptilian being. But then again, the idea of technology that advanced
Right.
is almost equally mind-boggling.
It's hard to,
It really is.
yeah, choose one, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's fascinating that both theories exist, though.
Yeah.
It really shows the diverse perspectives on this phenomenon.
Right.
You've got the biological theory, which taps into these ancient myths and legends.
Mhm.
And then you've got the technological angle,
Right.
which speaks to our fascination with, advanced alien civilizations.
Right.
It's a real testament to the enduring power of this mystery.
For sure. Okay, but here's where things take a little bit of a darker turn.
Okay.
The documentary suggests that these reptilian beings might be strategically infiltrating positions of power and influence in our society.
This is where it starts to get a little creepy.
Right.
Yeah, the Trojan horse scenario, they call it.
So, like, they're disguised as humans.
They're
working behind the scenes,
right.
influencing governments, corporations, even like religious organizations.
Yeah. I mean, if true, that raises some pretty unsettling questions.
Yeah, about who's really in control.
Right, exactly. Who's pulling the strings?
And the documentary maker even goes so far as to suggest that certain events in our world,
like what kind of events?
like wars, environmental destruction,
right.
Widespread suffering.
The bad stuff.
Yeah, that this could be evidence of a non-human agenda at play.
Wow, that's a heavy implication.
It is.
And it's certainly open to interpretation.
Right.
The documentary doesn't offer any concrete evidence to support this claim.
Okay.
But it does leave the viewer
Yeah.
to ponder that possibility.
Yeah.
And that's a question that kind of lingers long after the credits roll.
So what do you think? Is there any weight to this Trojan horse theory?
It's hard to say for certain.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea of reptilian beings secretly controlling the world may seem far-fetched to some people.
Right.
But it's important to remember that power structures
and hidden agendas are a reality in human history.
Right.
I mean, we see that all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
So the documentary is really just asking us to consider the possibility that these power dynamics might extend beyond our own species.
Wow, that's a lot to consider.
It is.
All right, so we've got personal encounters, we've got theories about how shapeshifting might work.
Yeah.
And now we've got this idea of infiltration and control. Where do we go from here?
Well, the documentary then kind of shifts gears a little bit.
Okay.
And explores this concept called soft disclosure.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned this earlier.
Yeah.
Soft disclosure. So what is that again?
So the idea is that popular media
Okay.
might be subtly revealing the truth about shapeshifting
Okay.
As a way of preparing the public
Okay.
for a larger revelation.
Okay.
They point to the prevalence of shapeshifting
Yeah.
and alien invasion themes
Right.
in movies and TV shows as potential examples of this. Okay, yeah, they specifically mention films like Eyes Wide Shut, Rosemary's Baby.
Right.
They Live the Thing, and Aliens.
Classics.
So how do those films fit into this discussion about shapeshifting?
Well, each of these films, in its own way, explores themes of hidden identities, deception, and the blurring of reality.
So are they saying that these films are literally exposing the truth about reptilian shapeshifters?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
The documentary suggests that these films might be tapping into like a collective unconscious, reflecting a deeper awareness of these themes, even if it's on a subconscious level.
Right.
It's the idea that truth can be revealed through fiction. That stories can serve as a form of disclosure. Even if it's veiled in symbolism and allegory.
So they're not saying that John Carpenter was literally making a documentary about reptilian overlords that live.
Right.
But rather that the film's themes of hidden agendas, societal control, resonate with these broader theories.
Exactly. They're encouraging us to look beyond the surface narrative of these films and consider the deeper meanings and symbolism at play.
Okay, so it's about recognizing patterns, connecting the dots, and seeing the potential for a hidden reality beneath the surface of our perceived world.
That's the idea.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all ties together.
Yeah.
We're moving from personal encounters and theories about shape-shifting to this idea that these themes are being reflected in pop culture.
Right.
Perhaps as a way of subtly revealing a larger truth.
Exactly. And the documentary doesn't just stop at mentioning these films.
Okay.
They actually go deeper and analyze specific movies.
Okay.
Focusing on their symbolism and how they might be reflecting a hidden reality.
Let's get into some film analysis then.
All right, let's do it.
Which films do they highlight?
So they focus on films like They Live V and Beastmaster.
Okay. And what kind of symbolism are we talking about here?
Well, they argue that they live with those iconic sunglasses that reveal the true faces of the alien infiltrators is a commentary on the way we decode reality and the hidden agendas of those in power.
So it's not just a fun action flick about aliens.
Right. It's a metaphor for something deeper.
You're saying it's actually a metaphor.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. What about the other films, V and Beastmaster?
So V is interesting because it presents a more overt depiction of reptilian aliens disguised as humans. And they've come to Earth to conquer it. The documentary highlights the symbolism of human resistance in the face of this threat. And they draw parallels to the potential challenges we might face if these shape-shifting theories prove to be true.
Okay, so V is like a much more literal interpretation of this reptilian invasion idea. Whereas They Live is more subtle and metaphorical.
Exactly.
Okay, what about Beastmaster?
So Beastmaster, they argue, also contains symbolism related to reptilian agendas and the power of those who can see through the deception. It's about recognizing the signs, trusting your intuition, and fighting back against those who seek to control and manipulate you.
Wow. Okay, so we've gone from personal encounters to theories about how shape-shifting works. To this idea that these themes are being reflected in pop culture. And now we're analyzing specific films for their deeper meaning.
We're going deep.
It's a lot to take in.
It is.
But it's definitely fascinating.
It really is. And what I find particularly intriguing is this idea that these films might be serving as a form of soft disclosure. You know, subtly preparing us for a larger truth about the nature of reality.
It makes you wonder.
It really does.
Is there something more to these stories than just entertainment?
Are they tapping into something deeper? Something we might not be consciously aware of?
And as we delve deeper into this documentary, things take an even more mind-bending turn.
Oh, boy.
They introduce this concept called the rule of the game. Which suggests that these reptilian beings are bound by some kind of cosmic rule. That requires them to disclose their intentions before they can act.
Interesting.
So they're saying that these reptilian overlords have to announce their evil plans.
It's not quite that straightforward. But it's more about the idea that they have to give us a heads up. Even if it's hidden in plain sight. The documentary uses the analogy of a burglar announcing their plan to break into your house. You know, it shifts the responsibility onto those who choose to ignore the warning.
So are they saying that all this talk about shape-shifting?
Potentially.
In movies and TV shows? Could actually be part of that disclosure?
It's a possibility.
A way of subtly letting us know what's really going on. Wow, this rule of the game concept raises so many questions. Like who or what sets these rules? And if we ignore these subtle disclosures, are we somehow complicit in whatever might happen?
It's heavy stuff.
It's a lot to unpack.
It really is.
This is getting pretty intense.
We're going down the rabbit hole.
We've covered personal encounters theories about how shape-shifting might work, the possibility of reptilian beings infiltrating positions of power, the idea of soft disclosure through popular culture, and now this rule of the game.
Oh, we've covered a lot of ground.
This is a lot to process.
It is, and we're just getting started.
Oh, boy.
There's much more to uncover as we delve deeper into the source material.
So before we go any further, I want to check in with you, dear listener.
What are your thoughts so far?
What stands out to you the most?
What are you finding intriguing?
What are you skeptical about?
Take a moment to reflect.
And we'll be right back to continue our exploration
of shape-shifting.
That's
right. It's pretty wild to think about this whole rule of the game thing, right?
Definitely.
Like how it might be playing out in our world. If we look back at history, like there are so many examples of warning and signs that were just like ignored or dismissed, often with terrible consequences.
And it makes you think about like all those conspiracy theories that people brush off as like crazy talk?
Yeah, like what if there's actually truth hidden in some of those theories?
Right.
But people just aren't ready to see it yet.
They're not ready to take the red pill.
Exactly. That's like the whole point of this rule of the game idea.
Yeah.
The information is out there, but it's like hidden or presented in a way that we have to decipher.
Yeah, like a code to crack?
Yeah, like a cosmic puzzle.
Okay, so let's bring it back to shapeshifting.
Okay.
How does this rule of the game actually apply to the idea of like reptilian beings infiltrating our society?
So the documentary suggests that by revealing themselves through pop culture, these beings are fulfilling their obligation to disclose their intentions. Yeah. It's like a subtle form of disclosure that lets them operate within the rules.
So even though it seems bizarre to us, they're still technically playing by the rules.
That's the idea. And it really raises the question of like our own accountability.
Oh, okay.
You know, if we choose to ignore these signs, are we somehow complicit in what might happen?
Yeah, that's a really interesting concept.
That's heavy stuff.
Yeah, it really makes you think twice about just brushing off those crazy theories.
Absolutely.
Okay, but let's get back to this idea of soft disclosure through pop culture.
Okay.
They mention a few specific films.
Right.
But is there any evidence that this is a more widespread thing?
Well, the documentary argues that this theme is actually super prevalent in pop culture.
Right.
They point to recurring motifs, like hidden identities, deception, the blurring of reality as evidence of this.
Okay, can you give us some specific examples?
Sure. Think about movies like Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
Or The Sacked Thing.
Yeah.
Both of these films deal with this fear of alien infiltration.
Right.
And this idea that like the people closest to us might not be who they seem.
Oh, right. Yeah.
They tap into this like primal fear of the unknown.
For sure.
And the potential for deception on a massive scale.
Yeah, those are classic sci-fi horror films.
They are.
And I can definitely see how those themes could be interpreted as soft disclosure.
Right.
Especially in the context of shapeshifting.
Exactly. And it's not just limited to sci-fi or horror either.
Okay.
You could even look at films like The Matrix or Fight Club.
Yeah.
They explore these themes of like hidden realities.
Right.
And the idea that our perception of the world might be a carefully constructed illusion.
Yeah. Those films really make you question everything.
They do.
You thought you knew.
Right. And while they might not explicitly mention reptilian shapeshifters, they do raise these questions about the nature of reality, the potential for hidden agendas, and the possibility that we're being manipulated on a level that we don't fully understand.
It's like we're living in one of those movies.
That's kind of the unsettling feeling that this documentary evokes. It's about recognizing that the world might be a lot more complex and mysterious than we've been led to believe.
So if this soft disclosure is happening, what's the purpose?
Right. Like, why not just come right out and tell us what's going on?
Exactly.
That's a question the documentary wrestles with.
Okay.
One theory is that it's a way to, like, gradually acclimate us to the truth, prepare us for a reality that might be too shocking to just accept all at once.
Yeah, if someone just suddenly announced that reptilian beings were secretly running the world. Most people would think they're crazy.
Exactly. And it's not just about avoiding mass panic either. There's also the idea that, like, we as a species need to be ready for this kind of revelation. We need to be able to process it and integrate it into our understanding of the world.
So it's like we're being slowly nudged in the right direction. Giving clues and hints to prepare us for the bigger picture.
And it's up to us to piece those clues together, connect the dots, and arrive at our own conclusions. The documentary doesn't give us any like definitive answers, but it does offer a framework for understanding this phenomenon. It's like a lens to view the world in a new light.
Yeah. This is definitely making me look at things differently.
That's the point.
Okay. But let's go back to the documentary.
Okay.
They mention the karmic implications of this rule of the game and soft disclosure. What do they mean by that?
Well, they suggest that by disclosing their intentions, even in the subtle way, these reptilian beings are like absolving themselves of karmic responsibility.
So it's like they're playing by the rules. But that means we're the ones who are responsible for our choices.
That's the implication.
Wow.
The documentary argues that we have the free will
Okay.
to choose how we respond to this information.
Yeah.
We can choose to ignore it,
Right.
dismiss it,
Yeah.
or we can choose to investigate it,
Okay.
question it,
Right.
and arrive at our own conclusions.
It's like the red pill, blue pill situation from The Matrix.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Right.
This documentary is basically presenting us with that red pill,
Okay.
offering us a glimpse into this reality
Right.
that might be a lot more complex and challenging
Okay.
than we ever imagined.
I'm sure some listeners are thinking, like,
Yeah.
if these reptilian beings are so advanced,
Right.
why are they playing by these rules?
Right. Why not just take over?
Yeah.
That's a question that the documentary doesn't really address directly, but it does raise the possibility that there might be forces at play that we don't fully understand.
Like a higher power.
Yeah, like a cosmic order or a higher power
Okay.
that dictates these roles of engagement.
So it's like there's a whole other level to this that we're not even aware of.
It's a mystery.
Yeah.
That's kind of the feeling that the documentary leaves us with.
Yeah.
This sense of mystery and intrigue.
Okay.
It suggests that we're really just scratching the surface of a much larger reality,
Okay.
one that's way more complex and interconnected
Right.
than we might have ever imagined.
Okay. My head is spinning.
I know, right?
We've covered so much.
That's a lot.
I think I need a minute to process everything.
Yeah, let's take a step back
Okay.
and really think about everything you've learned.
Yeah. We've explored personal encounters,
Mm-hmm.
theories about how shape-shifting could work,
Yeah.
the possibility of these beings infiltrating positions of power, this idea of soft disclosure through pop culture,
Yeah.
and the karmic implications of this cosmic game.
It's mind-blowing stuff.
It really is. All right, dear listener, we're going to take a short break,
Take a breather.
but we'll be back soon to wrap up this deep dive
Into the world of shape-shifting.
into the world of shape-shifting. In the meantime, think about everything we've talked about.
What resonated with you?
What questions do you have?
Are you ready to take that red pill?
Okay, so we're back
Back again.
and ready to finish our deep dive
Good dog, yeah.
into shape-shifting.
Into the world of shape-shifting.
I don't know about you, but my head's still spinning from everything we've talked about.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot to process.
Yeah, we've explored some pretty mind-bending concepts,
Fair.
personal encounters,
Yeah.
theories about how shape-shifting might work.
Mm.
This possibility that these beings could be infiltrating positions of power
It's wow.
and even subtly revealing themselves through pop culture.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole rule of the game concept,
Oh, yeah.
which suggests that there's like a cosmic order
Right.
at play,
It's fascinating.
even when it comes to reptilian shapeshifters.
Yeah. The rule of the game is so interesting to me because it really brings in this like moral dimension to the whole phenomenon.
Yeah.
It suggests that even these beings
Yeah.
who, might be seen as malevolent
Right.
or threatening,
Yeah.
they're still bound by these rules that dictate their actions.
So it's not just a free-for-all.
Exactly. There are limits. There are boundaries.
Even when you're dealing with interdimensional reptilian beings.
Apparently so.
Okay, but before we get too lost in the cosmic weeds here,
Yeah, let's reel it back in.
let's go back to the documentary.
Okay.
Don't mention the reptilians.
Right.
It presented a lot of information,
Mm-hmm.
but it didn't really offer any concrete proof of shape-shifting.
That's true. It relied a lot on personal testimony
Yeah.
and, interpretations of events,
Right.
which can be subjective.
Well, of course. So should we just dismiss it all as a bunch of crazy talks?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, while it's important to be critical
Yeah.
of the information that's presented,
Mhm.
we shouldn't just automatically dismiss it.
Okay.
The documentary offers a really different perspective.
Right.
It's a way of looking at the world
Yeah.
that challenges those assumptions we make.
Right.
And it encourages us to question what we think we know.
It's like that saying, the absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence.
Exactly. Just because we haven't proven something
Right.
doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
And sometimes the most profound truths are hidden in plain sight,
Right.
just waiting for us to connect the dots
Uh-huh.
and see the bigger picture.
That's the idea.
And the documentary definitely makes a compelling argument for that.
It does.
They're suggesting that the evidence is all around us,
Mm-hmm.
hidden in our myths and legends,
Right.
embedded in our pop culture,
Yeah.
even subtly revealed through the actions of those in power.
It's an invitation to pay attention,
Yeah.
become more aware
Yeah.
of the world around us,
Right.
and to question the narratives that we've been given.
It's really making me think twice about some things
I know, me too.
that I used to just brush off as conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
That's the power of a deep dive like this.
It is.
You know, it forces us to confront our own biases, to challenge our beliefs, and expand our understanding of what's possible.
That's what it's all about.
So where do we go from here?
That's a good question.
We've explored the source material.
We have.
We've analyzed the arguments.
Yeah.
We've considered the implications. What's the takeaway for our listeners?
You know, I think the most important takeaway is to stay curious.
Okay.
To keep an open mind and to keep exploring.
Yeah.
The documentary doesn't give us all the answers, but it gives us a starting point.
Okay.
For further investigation.
So it's like they've given us a map, but we have to chart our own course.
Yeah.
And discover what lies beyond those known territories.
Exactly. And who knows what we might find.
All right. Well, we've reached the end of our deep dive.
Into shapeshifting.
Into the world of shapeshifting. We've covered a lot of ground.
A lot.
We've explored some fascinating theories.
We have.
And hopefully left you with more questions.
Yes, more questions than answers.
That's
the goal.
The goal of a deep dive is to spark curiosity.
Right.
Encourage critical thinking. And expand our understanding of the world.
Of the world around us, that's right.
So as you go about your day, keep your eyes open. Question everything.
Stay curious.
And remember.
What's that?
The truth might be stranger than fiction.
Until next time.
Keep exploring.